All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty interesting.
Okay.
The whole idea of economic freedom and how it can lead to prosperity, particularly in Africa. You know, we often hear this narrative that colonization is like the reason why Africa struggles economically. But the sources we're looking at today kind of take a different approach. We have a YouTube interview with a prominent economist, and then also like a summary document that goes along with it. And they both suggest that maybe economic freedom is a more crucial factor than we give it credit for.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they use some pretty compelling examples, like Singapore, Hong Kong,
Oh, wow.
even Dubai.
Okay.
Like Dubai's crazy transformation.
It's like, are you ready to maybe challenge some conventional wisdom and like uncover some surprising insights?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get started.
I think it's a really thought-provoking perspective to kind of move beyond just blaming historical events.
Yeah.
And focus on, you know, what can be done now. Right, exactly. And the way these sources kind of dismantle this whole, like, colonization excuse is actually pretty compelling. They don't deny that colonization had an impact.
Right.
But they argue that it's not the whole story.
Yeah, it's true. Focusing only on past injustices can sometimes prevent us from moving forward. It's like saying, well, I tripped and fell, so I'm just going to lay here on the ground.
I like that analogy. So instead of just dwelling on the past, they're saying, hey, let's look at what actually drives prosperity now and see how we can apply those principles.
Exactly. And I think that's where this concept of economic freedom comes in. It's not just like some abstract idea. It has real-world implications.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does economic freedom actually mean in practice?
So think of it as a system where individuals and businesses have the freedom to make their own choices without too much government interference. So it's about free markets, secure property rights, a transparent legal system that upholds contracts, essentially creating an environment where people feel confident, investing, innovating, and building businesses.
So it's less about handouts and more about creating a system where people can succeed on their own merits.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And our sources highlight some pretty interesting examples. Places like Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai. Now, these are very different places, but they all embraced economic freedom as like a core principle.
Yeah, and they've seen like incredible growth. It's amazing how quickly Dubai went from like a desert outpost to like this global hub.
Right. And while their approaches varied, they all share some key ingredients like low taxes, minimal bureaucracy, and a consistent legal framework. Think about it. If you were an entrepreneur, wouldn't you be more likely to invest in a place where the rules are clear, taxes are reasonable, and your property rights are protected?
Yeah, totally. It makes sense. But how does this translate to Africa? Are there any countries on the continent that are already on this path?
Actually, yes. And these African success stories are really exciting because it shows that these principles can work in very diverse contexts. Like take Mauritius, for example. They consistently rank high in economic freedom indices and have adopted policies that prioritize open trade, strong property rights, and a streamlined regulatory environment.
So they're making it easy for businesses to operate and thrive. Are there others?
Absolutely. Rwanda is another great example. Under President Paul Kagame, they've implemented these really ambitious reforms to attract foreign investment and replicate some of the things that we see in Singapore.
Wow, so they're looking at a proven success story.
Yeah.
And deliberately trying to model themselves after it. I'm already seeing how this is. More than just theory. It's about practical, actionable strategies.
Exactly. And then you have Kenya's Silicon Savannah, which is a testament to the power of fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. By creating this supportive environment for tech startups, they've attracted talent and investment from around the world.
Yeah, it's amazing how technology can be a game changer for economic growth. And then there's Botswana. They've kind of taken a different route, focusing on prudent economic management and good governance. It's clearly paying off.
Botswana's long-term vision and commitment to fiscal discipline have really created stability and attracted investors who are looking for a reliable and well-managed economy.
Okay, so we've seen these incredible examples, both globally and within Africa. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. What specific steps can African nations take to follow in these footsteps? Like, where do they even begin?
That's the key question. And the good news is our sources lay out some pretty concrete strategies. They suggest focusing on things like deregulation, legal reforms, investing in education and technology, and attracting foreign direct investment.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty solid plan, but let's break it down a little bit. So what does deregulation actually mean in this context?
So think of it as like cutting the red tape. That often like strangles businesses, especially smaller ones. It's about simplifying regulations, making it easier to start and run a company. Less paperwork, fewer bureaucratic hurdles, that kind of thing.
So it's about like streamlining the process
Yeah,
and getting the government out of the way, so to speak.
exactly. It's about creating an environment where entrepreneurs can spend less time like navigating bureaucracy and more time like focusing on actually building their businesses.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
What about these legal reforms? The sources mentioned drawing inspiration from common law systems, particularly the British model. Why is that significant?
Yeah, that's a really important point. Common law systems are based on this idea of precedent, meaning that court decisions in past cases can influence rulings in future cases. So this creates a more predictable and reliable legal environment because businesses have a clear understanding of how the law will be applied, which fosters trust and encourages investment.
So it's like having a set of rules that everyone understands and can rely on. No surprises, no sudden changes.
Precisely. And this is particularly important for attracting those foreign investors who need to be confident that their investments will be protected.
And it sounds like Dubai's success is a good example of this.
Absolutely. Their strategic adoption of elements of the British common law system was a key factor in transforming Dubai into that global financial hub that it is today. It sent a really clear signal to investors that their interests would be upheld.
Okay, that's really insightful. Moving on, the sources also emphasized investing in education and technology. Why is that so crucial?
Well, in today's rapidly evolving global economy, education and technology are really the engines of growth. Investing in these areas is about developing a skilled workforce that can compete in the global marketplace. It's about fostering innovation, boosting productivity, and creating a knowledge-based economy.
It's not just about having natural resources or cheap labor anymore. It's about having a population that's equipped to thrive
Yeah,
in this like digital age.
exactly. Think of it as investing in human capital, which is your most valuable resource.
And what are some specific ways that African nations can do this effectively?
Well, it starts with improving access to quality education at all levels, from primary school to higher education. It's about training teachers, updating curriculums to meet the demands of the modern economy, and making sure that education is accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status.
And what role does technology play in all of this?
Well, technology is both a tool and a driver of development. Investing in technology infrastructure, promoting digital literacy, and supporting tech startups are all essential for fostering innovation and economic growth. Think about Kenya's Silicon Savannah. It's a testament to the power of technology to transform economies.
Yeah, it's amazing how technology can like leapfrog traditional development barriers and create opportunities that were previously unimaginable. Now, the sources also mentioned attracting foreign direct investment,
Yes.
or FDI. How does that fit into this overall picture?
Well, FDI is a vital source of capital, technology, and expertise. It can help to jumpstart economic growth, create jobs, and connect African economies to global markets. Think of it as like a catalyst for development.
So it's not just about relying on internal resources, it's about attracting external investment to help boost growth and create opportunities.
Exactly. But in order to attract FDI, countries need to have a favorable investing climate. So that means a stable political environment, a transparent legal system, and policies that make it easy for businesses to operate.
It sounds like all these pieces kind of fit together. The deregulation, the legal reforms, the investment in education and technology. It's about creating this whole ecosystem that supports growth and attracts investment.
You got it. It's a holistic approach. And it's about more than just top-down policies. It also involves fostering this culture of entrepreneurship, empowering individuals to really take ownership of their economic future.
Yeah, that's a great point. You mentioned entrepreneurship earlier.
Yeah.
How can African nations create a culture where people are encouraged to take risks and start businesses?
Well, I think it starts with changing mindsets. For too long, there's been this idea that success comes from getting a government job or relying on aid. We need to shift that narrative and promote the idea that anyone can become an entrepreneur, that they can create their own opportunities and build a better future for themselves and their communities.
So it's about encouraging this like can-do spirit, a belief that individuals have the power to shape their own destinies.
Exactly. And that requires providing the right support systems, things like mentorship programs, access to microfinance, and networks where entrepreneurs can connect with each other and share ideas. It's about creating an environment where people feel empowered to take those first steps and build something great.
It's inspiring to think about the potential that could be unlocked by fostering that kind of entrepreneurial spirit.
It is. And don't forget the power of role models. Showcasing successful African entrepreneurs can really inspire others to follow in their footsteps and demonstrate that it's possible to achieve success through hard work and innovation.
It's about changing the narrative and showing that Africa is not just a place that needs help, but a place where people are creating their own solutions and building a brighter future.
Absolutely. But of course, there will be challenges along the way.
I was just about to ask about that. What are some of the biggest obstacles that African nations might face in pursuing this path?
Well, corruption is a major issue in many countries. It creates uncertainty, discourages investment, and undermines trust in institutions.
It's like a disease that eats away at the fabric of society and the economy.
Yeah, it's a serious problem, and it requires a concerted effort to combat it. Transparency, accountability, and strong institutions are essential for building a fair and equitable system.
And what about political instability? I mean, we can't ignore the fact that many African countries have experienced conflict and unrest.
You're right. Political instability can derail even the best economic plans. It creates uncertainty, disrupts markets, and discourages investment. So building peace, strengthening democratic institutions, and ensuring good governance are all crucial for sustainable economic growth.
So it's not just about economic policies. It's about creating a stable and secure environment where those policies can actually flourish.
Precisely. And we can't forget about the challenges of infrastructure, things like reliable transportation networks, access to electricity, and internet connectivity. These are fundamental building blocks for any modern economy.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine businesses thriving without those basic necessities.
Exactly. So investing in infrastructure is not just about creating jobs in the short term. It's about laying the foundation for long-term economic growth.
And of course, there are always external factors that can impact economic growth, like global market fluctuations or natural disasters.
That's right. African nations are part of a globalized world, and they're not immune to these external shocks. But while these factors are outside of their control, building resilience through diversification and strong institutions can help to mitigate their impact.
So it's about being prepared for the unexpected and having systems in place that can weather the storm, so to speak.
Exactly. Now, while these challenges are significant, they're not insurmountable, and the potential rewards are immense.
That's a good point. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about those potential rewards. What difference can economic freedom actually make in the lives of everyday Africans?
That's the heart of the matter, isn't it?
We've talked about all these policies and strategies, but at the end of the day, it's really about people, right? Like, how does economic freedom actually translate into a better life for someone living in, say, rural Kenya or bustling Lagos?
It's about opportunity. Imagine a young woman in rural Kenya. She has this great idea for a business. Maybe she wants to start a poultry farm or create a mobile marketplace for local artisans. But in a system with limited economic freedom, she might face all these bureaucratic hurdles, struggling to access credit, or lacking the legal protections. To really operate with confidence, but with greater economic freedom, those barriers start to crumble.
So it's about leveling the playing field and giving everyone a chance to succeed, no matter their background.
Exactly. It's about empowering people to be the authors of their own success stories. And when individuals succeed, their families benefit, their communities prosper, and ultimately the entire nation moves forward.
That makes sense.
Yep.
But what about those who say that economic freedom mainly benefits the wealthy? How does it actually impact poverty reduction?
That's a common misconception, but the data actually tells a different story. Countries with greater economic freedom consistently have lower poverty rates.
Interesting.
And why is that? Because economic freedom fosters competition, which drives down prices and makes goods and services more affordable for everyone. It also creates more jobs, giving people the opportunity to earn a living and lift themselves out of poverty.
So it's not just about trickle-down economics then. It's about creating a system where everyone has the chance to participate and benefit.
Precisely. And one of the most impactful ways economic freedom fights poverty is by empowering women. When women have equal opportunities to participate in the economy, they invest back into their families and communities, creating this ripple effect of positive change.
That's such a good point. I think we often overlook the crucial role that women play in economic development.
Absolutely. And it's not just about economics either. Economic freedom can have profound social benefits as well. When people have control over their own lives and livelihoods, they're more likely to be engaged citizens. demanding better governance and accountability from their leaders.
So it can actually strengthen democratic institutions and promote greater transparency.
Exactly. Economic freedom and political freedom are really intertwined. When people have economic power, they have a stronger voice, and that's essential for a healthy and vibrant democracy.
Wow, I never thought about it that way. It's amazing how economic freedom can have these like ripple effects outwards, creating positive change on so many levels.
Yep.
But let's be realistic for a second. This is a complex issue. There are no easy solutions. What are some of the biggest challenges that African nations might face in actually implementing these principles?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is changing those deeply ingrained mindsets, moving away from a culture of dependency, and embracing individual initiative requires a shift in both individual attitudes and societal norms.
So it's not just about enacting new laws or policies. It's about like changing the way people think about themselves and their role in society.
Absolutely. Education and awareness building are crucial, but so is showcasing successful examples of African entrepreneurs who have achieved success. Through hard work and innovation, people need to see that it's possible, that there's a different path.
It's about creating a new narrative for Africa, one that focuses on self-reliance, innovation, and the incredible potential that exists within the continent.
Exactly. And then, of course, there are the practical challenges that we discussed earlier. Corruption, political instability, lack of infrastructure. These are all serious issues that require long-term solutions, but they're not insurmountable.
It sounds like a massive undertaking, but also like an incredibly exciting opportunity. It makes you wonder what Africa could achieve if it truly embraced these principles.
The potential is immense. Imagine in Africa, where poverty is drastically reduced, where innovation flourishes, where entrepreneurs create jobs and opportunities, and where every individual has the chance to reach their full potential. That's the vision we should be striving for.
It's an inspiring vision. And it's clear from our deep dive today that economic freedom is like a crucial part of making that vision a reality. But it's not just about Africa, is it? These principles have relevance for every nation, every society.
Absolutely. The pursuit of economic freedom is a universal aspiration. It's like a fundamental human desire to control our own destinies and build a better future for ourselves and our children.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. If we truly believe in the power of economic freedom to transform lives and societies, what can we each do to champion this cause, not just in Africa, but in our own communities and around the world?
That's a question worth pondering. And as we've learned today, the answers might surprise you. It's not just about grand gestures or sweeping policies. It can be as simple as supporting local businesses, mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs, or advocating for policies that promote opportunity and empower individuals.
Every action, no matter how small, can make a difference. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into economic freedom. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and are inspired to explore this topic further.
And remember, the pursuit of economic freedom is not just an intellectual exercise. It's a journey that can transform lives and shape the future of our world, possibly